Welcome back to Easily Entertained. My name is Bryson Olson, and here we talk about all the good things of entertainment. You saw the title. Today we are talking about We Live in Time, my new favorite romance film. I just think it is magnificent, and of course it's starring like the legends Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield, some of my favorite actors. So I just have to talk about everything I enjoy about it. So let's get into it. We Live in Time is such an apt title for this movie, as it really does focus on all parts of our main characters, Almet and Tobias's stories throughout their time. We get the past, the present, and future of them together, which I just think is wonderful. And I like that it isn't told in a linear fashion. While technically they could have if they really wanted to, I think sprinkling the little bits of each part of their story, the past, present, and future throughout, I think it just works better. I think it lets us as the audience piece it together and learn about these characters in a more interesting way. It is kind of like making new friends in a way, like while you're watching this movie, because as you go along, you get bits and pieces of what makes them them. You don't get the whole thing all at once. You learn where they want their life to go, where it has been, where they're from, where is their life right now, what would they like to change about their life. And it is constantly stuff being added to the picture, which I think is what this movie is like. And I think that is just fantastic. And the way they group those different aspects, I think tend to be pretty good. It's usually based on the events of the story that's happening. So like they're focusing for a little bit on like Almet and Tobias's daughter. Well, let's get the daughter right now. Let's get the pregnancy. Let's get the event of her actually being born. Her dealing with the effects of Almet getting cancer, of having to compete in a big cooking competition. It is just aspects of everything for that topic, and it's not all told in a step-by-step order, which I like. It is just a unique way of telling a romance story without doing it in like a linear fashion, which I think is how most do it. And while I was excited for the movie going in, like when the movie had been announced, there were early trailers, I thought it looked interesting, and I already like Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, so I was excited for it. And I knew the time aspect would be a big thing of it. So one, I was worried it would potentially be linear, which I don't think could have been terrible, but I think we could have ended up having some moments that kind of drag a little bit. And two, if it was going to be more anthological type of storytelling, I was worried it would almost feel like parts of a whole, but not the whole. Like when you're watching a TV series all at once, like some TV series, they do really well at making the whole thing feel cohesive, but others, you're like, yeah, this is episode by episode. And thankfully, I think they did a great job of breaking it up in a way that doesn't do that. They do it so it's easy to understand and it connects and is still able to pull on your heartstrings. They would focus on a topic for a moment and let you process it, and then they would do it again with a different topic. Or maybe if they want you to feel a certain emotion, like Tobias usually struggles with like a lot of anxiety, or he's kind of maybe trying to hold on to something and doesn't want to really feel like abandoned. When they're showing that in the movie, you'll have a moment of the character experiencing this, and instead of really giving time for you to process it, they're going to jump right into the next thing to make you just feel that same emotion, especially with those kinds of emotions, just because that's how they feel in real life. And so you as the audience can really empathize and feel what the character is feeling. And I like it. I feel like it's kind of an experimental kind of thing. And lately, I feel like we have been seeing a lot more of that experimentation in movies. And I love it. I think most of it has been, from what I've noticed, is in the animation industry. Like, we've obviously seen a lot of experimentation in there. And I think that's fantastic. But I do like that it's merging into the live action side of things as well. Just because not everything is animated, and I want live action stuff to take some risks and experiment too. And We Live in Time is definitely not the first movie or property to ever do this kind of non-linear storytelling in the form of a movie. But to have the whole movie be told in this way, I think is an interesting way to tell the story. Sure, maybe we have a flashback or two in other kinds of movies, but in this movie they're switching back constantly. Like, the movie is about their time together, and it's not just, oh, let's tell their story, let's tell about their time. And I will get into a little bit more why I think it works more later, because I think it follows along a theme. But I just love that the team had the confidence and the chemistry to really do so.
There's a very distinct and real possibility that I am about to fall in love with you.
You can't really have a good romance movie without good leads, and holy shit, did they pick some phenomenal leads for this movie. Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield. What are you, crazy? As a part of this movie, the studio should have provided the movie theaters with tissues, because the audience would be feeling all the emotions whenever the two are on screen together, which is all the freaking time in this movie, of course, because they're the leads. It is honestly so crazy to me how these two have such amazing chemistry with each other, both on and off screen. Like, they just are so good, individually and together as well. Like, a few days prior to going and actually seeing We Live in Time, I saw the clip of Andrew Garfield on Sesame Street talking to Elmo. And he's, talking about his mom who passed away, and like how he tries to remember her and think about all the good things. Tears, okay? I was crying. That was one of the sweetest things I've ever seen, because Andrew Garfield, he's just like one of those like purely wholesome beings. It's actually wonderful. It was so good. But in this movie, you just have these two actors who are passionate, wholesome, and talented, and just genuinely amazing at what they do. You put them together on the silver screen, wow. Someone was cooking with gasoline when they thought up that pairing, because goddamn, does it go so hard in this movie. It's crazy. I feel like usually in movies we get some good chemistry between people, like they can usually figure out who's going to be good together. This movie, they took it to another level. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And I think especially considering what this movie is about, to make such a good relationship story, your characters, not just your characters, your actors better be able to crush it together. And Florence and Andrew just take every aspect of this movie and push it to its absolute best. Like, they are nearly perfect. And it's, oh my gosh, it is wild. You want your characters in a fight? Okay, let's put them in a fight. But let's make these characters who are very obviously in love with each other, let's put the loving look behind their eyes. They don't actually want to fight. These guys are more than just actors. They are the characters. You can see it, that it physically hurts them to be mad at each other. They are the characters. It is such amazing acting and chemistry that you believe every second. It is... it's crazy to put it into words, because I can't describe it, because it's so amazing. And like, you want them to laugh and be cute together. Holy shit, are they gonna laugh and be cute together in that new relationship or a really long-term healthy relationship kind of feeling, that everyone wants and needs and deserves in their life? Okay, you got to make everyone in the audience be sad about their own relationship or think back really well on some cute moments in their own relationships. Honestly, you could probably tell me that the two of them are dating in real life, and I would have believed you. I would have been like, yeah, no shit, they're dating. Like, just look at how well they're acting together on screen. Like, that can really only come from real emotion. Like, it is that believable in this movie. Like, I could not be more sold on how well they play these characters. It's wild. Tobias, like, being the more reserved and soft-spoken kind of guy, very similar to how Andrew Garfield is. Like, he can be a little bit more outgoing, but I feel like he tends to be a bit more gentle in how his personality is. I think is great. And Tobias' character is like that. And then he's being opened up, and he balances Almet's character, who I feel like is very much like Florence Pugh, who is, you know, slightly more adventurous, maybe a little bit competitive. They just complement each other in such an amazing way. It's like a perfect match. And I really think that comes from just true chemistry. Like, acting can only go so far. When it's real people, while yes, they may not actually be in love with each other, they do love each other as people. Like, they are amazing. And like in this movie, their intimacy scenes are also pretty well done. In most romances, I don't always care for the intimacy scenes, not because they're usually like bad, but I feel like they're just kind of meh. Like, they're in there because, oh, you got some sexy actors, let's put them in there. But in this movie, like, because they have these two monsters of chemistry together, it's just phenomenal. There's like one scene where Alma is pregnant and Tobias is like giving her a bath or whatever, and they both just sit in the bath eating cookies together. Writer thought of that because they know how to make us care so much about these characters, because that's not something that just two random people would do. That is something that two people with real chemistry would do. That is crazy. And these two actors, these two people, they should be commended for how well they portrayed these characters and this story on screen. We wanted chemistry. Boy, did we get some chemistry. It was actually crazy. And they just pushed it beyond the typical standards of a romance movie.
There is something that your daddy and I...
There's something that Mum...
I feel like romance movies typically fall under two categories, either being a romantic comedy or a romantic drama. And there are technically other subcategories for these movies. However, these are the two that I feel cover most romance movies. Even the ones within the other subcategories tend to fall within this duality. However, in the case of We Live in Time, I think, like, yes, it's technically a romantic comedy. I think they go a little bit more beyond that. I don't think you can categorize this movie in the same way. It's a romance movie. It's not just romantic comedy. It's not just romantic drama. It just has a little bit of everything, which for a love story, especially one like this where they're like trying to make it pretty real, it makes it all the more real, as you can't just put these two people, this story, this relationship in a bubble. It's not going to work like that. The emotions they are feeling are real. Some romances, I feel like you have those moments that are real, but overall you can tell that you're just witnessing a story. This movie, however, feels like a peek into a real story. Like, I know it's a story going in, but you forget that it's a story. It feels like a real couple's life. Take any disagreements between the characters, like I said earlier. It's more than we just kiss and make up to solve any argument, which I feel like happens in most romances, which I don't really like. That's not very real. I get people don't always want real, but that doesn't feel real. But there are several points throughout this movie where you think the relationship might actually end over an argument because it's that real. They start off the movie with like the characters kind of interacting with each other, and then one of them has like divorce papers, and I didn't realize the characters' names yet, and I was like, are they just going to show us a divorce right at the beginning? That's crazy. And I know that's a slight spoiler, but it's right at the beginning, so it's a little bit less of a spoiler, okay? But I was like, what? That's crazy. Are you just going to tell me they're going to get divorced at the end? Of course they wouldn't. That is a wild thing to assume, but the way it was being told, that's how I was assuming it was going for a second. But there are moments like that where you're like, wow, their relationship could actually end. And like the way they have to get through it, they have to actually talk with each other. They go see a doctor for like more physical issues. They have real shouting arguments, and oh my gosh, they have their ups and downs where it seems better, but then it gets worse. And it's just, oh my goodness, it's so reminiscent of reality. It's kind of scary. The characters feel it, you feel it. It comes from that chemistry that we talked about earlier, where Florence and Andrew are just doing such a great job that we're so into it that we only really see them as this couple, and you forget that they're actors. You see them as the characters, and anything that happens to them does hurt. If their relationship is struggling, you are struggling as the audience because you want them to get through it. You just have so much empathy for them and what they are going through. And it's not just those hard moments either, but the good ones as well, I think, have the same emotional impact. You're excited when they have wholesome moments together or with their daughter. You have the moments when Alma is willing to try, like when she has cancer and doesn't initially really want to fight for it, but is convinced to do so. Sometimes you get when Tobias is a little bit more reckless and he's like, yeah, let's just do it. And I think that'd be cool. And that, I think, is great. It is just those little victories that you can feel for and just may remind you of your own relationship or one you've had before, or just your own life, where it feels more real. It's not all one big grand spectacle, but it's the little things that all kind of add up. Some people make the argument that they want stories that are not like real life. You want something that's gonna end really nice. They want to break from reality, and I can understand that. And for those types of people, this movie might not all be for them. Like, maybe they will enjoy it, but they may not like all of it, because it does feel real. It doesn't just feel like a story. Like I said, it feels like you're just being a fly on the wall for two actual people, which I do think makes the ending a little bit rough. Not because it's not good, but because the reality of it does exist, which you as the viewer can feel, because you just get a lot of empathy when watching this movie. So I am going to provide a little bit of a spoiler here, but I think it's important to talk about since we're talking about this. So if you haven't seen it yet, skip past this part so I don't ruin it for you. So the ending of We Live in Time slightly made me upset, because I did want it to be hopeful, because Alma's going throughout this entire movie with cancer, and you hope that she will get into remission and beat it. That'd be great, especially considering like so much is happening. They have a daughter, they have the cooking competition. That's what you're hoping for. But the sad reality is it is there, and people like Alma in real life don't always get the happiest of endings. But like Alma in this movie, I feel like they try to cherish the time they have left. Even if they're trying to fight it, they're trying to make the most of what's happening. And it reminds me a lot of that idea that life isn't beautiful because it lasts. Life is precious because it ends. Goodness. Alma didn't really want to play it out longer than she really needed. She wanted those 6 amazing months instead of 12 really shitty ones. She wanted the 6 amazing ones just so she could give her daughter something fond to look back on and think about her mom even after she is gone, and not just, oh, my mom had cancer and died. Like, that's sad. And I feel like Tobias makes sure to uphold that memory at the very end, and I think it's beautiful. Sad, but beautiful. And it does make me upset because I did want a happy ending. But We Live in Time is just such a refreshing take on the romance genre that I feel like I haven't seen in a while. And I also just love that the actors in it got me interested in the movie because I already like them, so that kind of attached me to it. But it was also just a really well done and emotional story that got me thinking about how well this movie will last throughout the years. I think it will be one that people look back on. Movies like The Notebook or 10 Things I Hate About You, where it's a romance movie that can really stand the test of time, and I think that's wonderful. So, thinking of how good We Live in Time is, we got to talk about our rating, which, if you don't know our easily entertained rating scale, if it's your first time, it's okay. From least to best, we go garbage, once is fine, right mood, quotable, go to, and all day, every day. I'm sorry, it pains me to say this, but I am going to put We Live in Time at only a go-to, because while it's amazingly well done, like there's virtually nothing wrong with this movie. It could be an all day, every day for some people. But personally, I couldn't handle crying all day, every day. So that's why We Live in Time is going more at a go-to for me, just because I don't want to be crying all the time if this was an all day, every day. So go-to is going to be for me. Let us know what you think of the rating down in the comments below. If you have a different rating, let us know. And that is all for this week's episode of Easily Entertained. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe so that you can be notified of all the latest episodes when they come out every Tuesday. It is always a great time. But until next time, bye.